For the day, you can call in as well on 0117146841. We're asking, what's the impact of the rolling blackouts and rising fuel and food costs? What impact is it having on your mental health as we get into this conversation? Now, as the cost of living is constantly on the rise, South Africans are feeling the pressure. The rising cost of fuel and fuel prices is having an impact on the mental health of South Africans. The rising fuel prices have ripple effects on consumers, reducing disposable incomes. The South African Anxiety and Depression Group says they have noted an increase in callers experiencing symptoms of anxiety and depression due to financial woes. For more on this, let's bring in the group's spokesperson, Senzekile Shongwe, and Sumari, a counselling psychologist working in association with the Northwest University Centre for Health and Human Performance. Thank you so much to both of you for joining us this morning and making the time. Let's start with you, Senzekile. The cost of living is constantly on the rise, with South Africans finding their salaries dwindling under such circumstances. How severe can the impact be on individuals?
Sure. The impact is quite a lot, because if you can think about it, we survive on finances. Everything revolves around finances. So any threat that really threatens our financial being affects our mental health quite in a very big way, simply because when you do not have enough money to be able to sustain a living, it does affect your mental health. It affects the way that your life performs, and it actually changes the way in which you're living. And we are constantly having to kind of think about ways in which we can adjust, constantly thinking of what side hustles can we have so that we can really fit into all of these financial burdens that are happening. And with the petrol increases and the food increases in pricing, you'd find that salaries are no longer enough. We are unable to sustain families, and you can only imagine how much that affects everyone's mental health at this time.
Sumari, what are some of the signs and symptoms of depression that one should be looking out for?
Yes, so anxiety and depression, we usually see a link between them, that the one, over a long time, anxiety leads to depression as well, or a low mood. So if we look at anxiety on the one side, that is always with anxiety, you get the physiological components. So there's heart racing, you see rapid breathing, shaking, trembling, and etc. But then you also see this restlessness. People are on edge. They are constantly on fight, flight, or freeze response. And with anxiety, there's always this uncertainty. They don't know what's going to happen. And with this, we know a lot of this is out of our control. So people constantly, like she said, they need to adapt constantly. And then the depression is people experiencing a persistent low mood, change in concentration. You see changes in your basic everyday stuff, like sleeping patterns get impacted. You see change in eating patterns, levels of motivation decreases. There's also increase of, worry, but then there's feelings of worthlessness, feelings of helplessness, and also hopelessness for the current situation.
Just quickly, a differentiation between anxiety and panic attacks, Sumari?
Yes, so with anxiety, we always look at it on a continuum. So you get normal stress or anxiety, which is healthy. We need actually anxiety to keep us in certain situations safe. So if you think if something comes running or someone comes running towards you, you need to react. You don't need to stand and wait and plan. You need to instantly react. But then when stress goes a bit further and gets to anxiety, and then we see, higher levels of persistent increased anxiety levels, and then we lead to panic, and then we find panic attacks. So that's almost when it reached its tipping point, where it's out of control in some way.
Senzekile, how should one know when it's time to seek professional help?
when you're in a position where you feel like you can no longer do it on your own, where you feel like you're in a dark space, you feel like you have and experiencing the symptoms that were just mentioned right now, where you feel like you're in a dark space, you feel like you're in a dark hole, and you feel like you do not see a way out, this means that you need somebody else to now try and help you to figure out what can you do with your situation. And sometimes it's not really about a situation, but sometimes it is your body really not being able to function anymore because of all the stresses that are around us, whether we acknowledge them or not, and all of the anxieties that come with not being able to control everything that is happening in our country right now. So when you feel that your body is feeling tense, you have muscle tension, you constantly have headaches, you are losing a lot of weight, and you're always flustered with thoughts, and you are unable to really think positively anymore because of this hopelessness, it might be time that you speak to a mental health professional so that they can help you. But it's not only a mental health professional that we need to speak to. It is also important that we seek support from our loved ones. I know all the time when it has to do with finances, it is quite hard to reach out to our loved ones and our families because we feel embarrassed. But it is really important for us to all note that everyone right now is struggling one way or the other, and we need each other more than ever.
So what are some of the coping mechanisms that one can use when they find themselves anxious due to financial woes, Sumari?
So we always look with anxiety, it's your breathing exercises, and you can even Google, there's a lot of mindfulness techniques. So because what we want to do with anxiety is get people out of this, in the emotion center of the brain, which is fight, flight, and freeze, into your prefrontal cortex again for good judgment and planning. So we also look at self-care, because a lot of times when we feel on edge or when things get busy, self-care actually it becomes a luxury and not a priority anymore. So we need to take care of ourselves there. Then we, like you mentioned, seek professional help when needed and you feel it's out of control. But then also when we get to the mood things, it's behavior activation. So try and stick to a basic routine, because routine gives us structure, it keeps us safe, it gives us purpose and a goal for every day. Try and get enough sleep, eat, and then a form of exercise as well, because we know that's almost like, we call it a natural antidepressant. It's good for our mental health. And then, we need to
Please continue.
To take a step back. Yeah, so the final point is just to take a step back, because when we're so overwhelmed, everything feels like tunnel vision, and we need to first take a step back, breathe a bit, and then we can reflect on what to possibly do next.
Senzekile, we were saying in our introduction that SADC has seen an increase in calls of people experiencing symptoms of anxiety and depression due to financial woes. And I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked Sumari. What are you telling the people who are calling in? What coping mechanisms are you giving them?
So I keep nodding my head, because what she is mentioning is exactly what we are telling people. But also importantly is for people to intentionally take care of their mental health. I think the word intentionally is quite important, because sometimes, or even most of the time, we start taking care of our mental health when we start not feeling well, right? But it is important for you right now, because we are all under stress. Our economy is bad and there's a lot happening. For you to decide that I'm going to intentionally start taking care of myself. I'm going to intentionally look at things that fill my cup. Look at things that make me feel fulfilled and make me feel better and make me feel happy, and focus on those things and make time to invest in those things. These things could be anything from playing sports, reading a book, watching a movie, going out with friends, or volunteering at an organization, or playing with kids, or being a good mom or a good dad. It could be anything, but trying to figure out what is that one or two things that make you feel good, just so that life can feel lighter and so that you can switch off from all the business of the country's state and everything that is negative that is happening. We all need some positivity in our lives, and also the people that you surround yourself with is quite important. Who are you spending time with? Try spending time with people that fulfill you, and when you're spending time with them, they actually come with positivity, and you think and talk constructively with those people, and not people that actually bring you down and make you feel bad about yourself. So just in addition to what has already been said, I would say intentionally take care of both your mental and physical health, and make sure that you stick to it.
So essentially just go back to being a doing nation and get active. And quite unfortunately, the people who are affected, which is most South Africans, sometimes don't have those choices just in terms of who you spend time with and where you can spend time. But just ladies, both of you, and we'll start with you, Senzekile, just take us into some of the things that the callers are saying.
The callers are saying quite a lot of things, and most things, again, have to do with money. Like, if you can look at it, there is a high rate of unemployment, and then the people that are actually employed have to take care of a number of people with a small salary. And looking at that, still, you see that there are food prices increasing, and there's just it's kind of like a cycle that we all feel like we are in a hopeless situation, we are in a hopeless state. And most of the callers are like, but what am I supposed to do? I feel like there isn't a way out. I feel lost, and I feel that there isn't a solution to my problem. And that is when our suicidal thoughts start coming in, because of hopelessness. But it's just the cycle of always feeling anxious about what is next, what is going to happen next. When are we going to have the next load shedding? When are we going to have the next? It's always something that makes us feel anxious.
Sumari, a quick one. What are your clients saying when they come through, especially in relation to depression experienced at the cost of the high cost of living?
Yes, so I can also reflect in general as well of what we see, the themes that's coming out, and it's this increased worry, stress and anxiety, and actually people almost living in constant fear about what is the day of tomorrow going to hold for us, and then a lot of isolation and withdrawal. And actually, like you mentioned, we want you to engage some more, but people are, and that's what we see with, with depressed mood, people withdraw some more. They become isolated, and things that they used to enjoy, they just don't anymore. So
Ladies,
yes, that's what.
To both of you, thank you so much for making the time to speak to us about this very real and current scourge in the country. Senzekile Shongwe is a spokesperson for SADAG, and Sumari, a counselling psychologist working in association